So we're coming into our website. One of the first things that we need to do in our HTML code is build out our structure of our website. So from the wireframe, we can have a rough idea of what we want our website to look like. So we can see here that we've got essentially two main content areas. We've got a heading area, so a header area here, and then we've got the full viewing area down here. So let's go ahead and create our structure. And then of course, we need a space to hold our logo or our branding for our website. So we need a space, one over here, a div within that heading area, and we need some menu navigation buttons over there. And this is all within that first section. So essentially the way that I'm looking at it right now is that we've got two main sections. So let's open this up and create our two main sections for our website. So the first one is going to be a header. And we're using HTML5, so we're going to identify it as using the header tags to create a header element. And then of course the content in here is going to be that heading information. So I'm going to use some divs in here. So I'm going to use a div as my main container. So it's always a good idea to have that capability of having a subcontainer in there in case we decide we want to move some things around, or we want to pull out that navigation or that additional bar. So let's create a main container for now that's going to hold all of our menu items and menu information. And usually the way that I like to do it is I like to give them IDs, because this gives me the ability to reuse that header tag if I need to. So sometimes you might use headers within sections or within even your footers and so on, your footing area of your website. So you might need a header and a footer and some content. So it's always a good idea to be able to identify your main header. So give it an ID of header or whatever makes sense for you, whatever you're used to calling that top header. And then this over here, so this is going to be where my menu contents are. So maybe this essentially is going to be containing that entire menu area and the logo. So I'm just going to right now place this all under one particular area. And I'm going to do another div over here, and I'm going to give it an ID of, let's say, branding, so that I know that this is where my contents of the company information are going to go. And next we need to create a navigation area. So I'm going to just create a nav element, and I'm going to give it an ID of nav so that I can isolate out all of this navigation information. And when I build out navigation bars, I like to use unordered lists. So I'm going to use the UL, and I'm going to use a bunch of list items that are going to actually link out to the web URLs. So we're going to fill that in the upcoming lesson. So this essentially is my main header area. And now the second part of this website is I need a main container area, or some way of containing that content. And notice again that there's a number of different ways when you're building out a website. So you need to really kind of think about it, where you want things to fall before you add in that styling, because it's going to make adding in that styling a lot easier as you progress. So let's create a main. So I'm going to create a div here so that this is going to be my main container area. I'm going to give it an ID of container. And then within here is where I'm going to set up all of the sections. So I'm going to have a section for each one of these clickable menu items that is going to display full page. So I want the sections to display as a full viewable area. And of course we're going to have to move these down because we're going to have this menu here staying up here at the top. So it's going to essentially be a sticky navigation menu at the top. So even when users scroll, then they're still going to be presented with that menu at the top, because you always want to give users the ability to be able to click through and view additional pages, especially when you're on these single page websites. It really does provide a lot of really nice functionality that you have that menu there at the top. So it's pretty much a must-have to have that menu at the top. So this is going to contain sections. So I'm going to just build out section here, and then within that section we're going to give it an ID. So maybe our first section, we're going to give it an ID of home. So this is going to be our initial presented section that gets presented when the user comes to the website. And I'm also going to add in classes here. And the reason for this is that I don't, again, want to just use the default section tag within my CSS. So I like to be able to identify the sections either by a class name or by something else that's really specific that can specify which sections I'm using. So of course I could still do it within a container, and immediately if it's got a section as a child from the container, then we could do it that way to identify it. But for the purposes of this class, because this is an introductory course, that I'm going to keep it really simple by keeping the CSS fairly simple and straightforward. So that's why I'm going to use classes to be able to identify the sections that I want to apply the styling to. So let's create some additional sections. So all I did is copied that, and typical website might have a home page, it might have a about page, it might have even some products or something, or so some product information, and of course we always need to include contact. So it would have some contact information and maybe something else, so just maybe a general type of information here. So typically most websites will have a home page, an information page, products, contact, and I'm just going to add in an extra page so that we actually are able to use 5 buttons here, and each one of those buttons is going to coincide with a section here within our HTML. So let's take a quick review of what we've done over here, and we're going to output that page within the display area so we can see it actually gets presented. So when we save this, and now if we go out and if I refresh it, well, really there's not much happening yet in our website, and that's because we don't really have any content. So this is all just structure and placeholder. So this is all part of the planning process. When you build out your website, make sure that you're planning for and anticipating what you're going to need within your CSS. So basically we've got our 2 main sections. So we've got our header, and we've got a container area here for all of our sections that we're going to be presenting. So we're going to keep this header, so this entire header is going to act as a sticky header, which is going to be on top of the web page. So it's going to just stick at the top there, and we're going to click the buttons and get scrolled down and presented with the various sections. So in the next lesson, we're going to continue to build out some of the HTML and get this website ready and prepared in order to work as a single page website. So that's coming up in the next set of lessons.